announced. The Israeli military says it has now retaliated after what it called the biggest barrage of rockets and mortars from Gaza in 4 years. Israel says it launched more than 35 airstrikes targeting Hamas and Islamic Jihad in Gaza. Both have claimed responsibility for the attacks on Israel. Our Phil Black joins us now with the latest. So, Phil, the IDF have said that this is Israel retaliating after this massive attack. Talk to us a bit about the scale of this attack and what we know about the retaliation.
Well, the day has been extraordinary in many ways, Bianca. This part of Israel, Gaza, has not experienced something like this for years, not since 2014, the last significant war between Israel and Hamas, the militant group that controls Gaza. It all started early in the morning, around 7 o'clock local time. That's when the Israeli Defense Force said there was an initial barrage of around 30 rockets and mortars fired from Gaza into Israeli territory. Most of them knocked out of the sky by Israel's air defense system. Some of them got through, however, including a mortar round, which Israel says landed in a kindergarten. Fortunately, there were no children there at the time. It was still pretty early in the morning. And then Israel retaliated with those airstrikes you mentioned, 35 into Gaza, hitting targets that they described as terrorist and military facilities. But even after that, the rocket and mortar fire from Gaza into Israeli territory, it continued. And by the end of the day, just a short time ago, really, Israel had said that some 70 projectiles had been fired into Israeli territory. Now, Israel blames Hamas, but also it says that Iran has a hand in this through another militant group, Islamic Jihad, which it says is heavily influenced by Iran and which it says today was firing Iranian weapons. Those two groups, Hamas and Islamic Jihad, they blame Israel. They say they were responding to what they describe as Israeli aggression. So both sides blame each other here. But the key question is what happens next? Can this get bigger? So far, there have been no fatalities reported, but 3 Israeli soldiers were injured. Israel says it has no desire to escalate this, but it has every intention of defending itself. Bianca.
Phil, these attacks come after several weeks of increasingly fraught relations on the Gaza Strip. Can you explain some of the short-term context that's led up to this as well?
So in recent weeks, months, really, what we've seen in Gaza have been regular large-scale protests. That's what the Gazans call them, near the fence that divides Gaza from Israel. Israel has used repeatedly lethal force in stopping some of those protesters. Israel says some of them aren't protesters, that they were terrorists using the cover of the protests to try and carry out attacks, to get through the fence into Israeli territory. Israel says it was defending its border, its sovereignty, its people. There has been enormous tension and violence because of that. There has been great criticism of Israel as well. It's been accused of using disproportionate force in putting down some of those protesters, despite its insistence that it is defending itself justly. Now we have this out of nowhere, and it is kind of unexpected in a way too, because Hamas and Gaza have to some extent received considerable sympathy from those who disapprove of Israel's actions in the way that it's handled these large-scale protests. Now Gaza is once again caught up in very much an old school type conflict here, lobbing rockets and mortars from Gaza into Israeli territory. And as I say, the key question from here is, can it escalate further?
With Prince Harry's recent wedding to Meghan Markle, a lot of people have been asking questions about this. Why did he marry a woman whose parent was black? It's very interesting. I'm going to give you the answer to that here. Now, a lot of people may not even be aware of it, but Meghan Markle's mother is black. And this is very interesting because of the history of Prince Harry. His little rebellious time when he was younger, you know, wearing a swastika on his arm and saying racist things. But let's look at a few other things first before we get into all that. As you probably already know, it was a pretty expensive wedding. Even the cake itself was about $60,000. And, you know, what's interesting also is Meghan Markle's half-sister, Samantha Grant, was injured in a car crash after confrontation with the paparazzi. Some people might think that has something to do with a payment, a sacrifice of some sort. I don't know, but you can obviously see the checkerboard on this church for their wedding, but far worse than that is some of the stuff we're going to get into now. This is pretty crazy. This is going to blow your mind, okay? This is really going to blow your mind. The history of the House of Windsor and those that they work with, they have the bloodlines, the 13 bloodlines, and where they originally are from, and it will all tie together with Prince Harry and why he was rebelling the way he was when he was younger. Let's check this out here first, and you'll see what I'm getting at.
The couple set their wedding date for April 29, 2011. Coincident?
Okay, so this is actually for Prince William. Now check this out. The date matches something very interesting.
It was the exact same day as Hitler's wedding day, and it marked the 66th anniversary of Hitler's marriage to Eva Braun.
And to watch U.S. television, fawning, Fox, CNN, CBS, all of them. Oh, it's so wonderful. No one in America can wait until next week, the way they're hyping it.
Yes, everything was perfectly perfect until the balcony kiss that royal wedding watchers waited for breathlessly. That magical moment was stolen by a 3-year-old flower girl whose sour expression cast a giant shadow over the royal kiss. The flower girl is the daughter of Lady Rose Astor, and she is also Prince William's goddaughter. Kate finally bent down and whispered something like, "Put on a happy face and get used to it. You're ruining everything." Why is the pouting flower girl important enough to be named Prince William's goddaughter? Because she's an Astor. Fritz Springmeier identifies the Astors as one of the 13 satanic bloodlines who made billions from opium, slave trading, and loan sharking. His book gives reference documentation of their criminal history. Many within these unsavory power circles were on the wedding guest list, like James Rothschild of the Rothschild-Bankster dynasty. James Rothschild brought along his passed-around girlfriend, Astrid Harbord, who, according to the tabloids, had previously shagged Prince Harry. Also on the guest list was Gary Goldsmith, Kate's uncle. The tabloids report that Uncle Gary is a filthy rich, cocaine-snorting, pill-popping, porn-peddling, foul-mouthed, randy, hedonistic playboy. Here's Kate's uncle at the wedding, popping pills with his female escort. Uncle Gary Goldsmith is the younger brother of Kate's mother, Carol Goldsmith. Kate's Uncle Gary was filmed covertly by undercover reporters for the UK's News of the World at his sprawling $10 million villa on the Spanish party island of Ibiza. He named his villa Maison de Bang Bang, which is French slang for House of Sex. Guarded by MI6 agents, Prince William and his bride-to-be holidayed, partied, and yachted at Uncle Gary Goldsmith's House of Bang Bang in 2006. The undercover reporters reported that Kate's Uncle Gary entertains his guests with hardcore porn on a massive 52-inch screen. He supplies pot, cocaine, ecstasy, hookers, and door-to-door delivery. Does anyone really believe that William and Kate just held hands and sipped tea on their Bang Bang holiday? And speaking of uncles, which uncle is slimier, Kate's Uncle Gary or William's Uncle Andrew? Prince Andrew is the brother of William's father, Charles, and the son of Queen Elizabeth. He is the fourth in line to the British throne. Andrew, who was also a featured guest at William's wedding.
All right, so you saw a little bit there. It seems to be like things are a little bit different when you peel back the surface, right? Now we're going to get into Prince Harry and the reason why he was so rebellious when he was younger, of course, with his mother, Diana. We're going to check that out right now. Let's check this out really quick, and we'll get into commenting on this.
First of all was the rumor that your mother got knocked up by Dodi Al-Fayed, and that your family murdered her because she was an embarrassment to the crown. Harry has a lot to be angry about. It's understandable that he acted out his anger and got caught by the paparazzi drinking, drugging, brawling, groping breasts, and making racist comments about dark-skinned people. What's not so understandable is why Harry wore a Nazi uniform and a swastika armband to an upscale dress party in 2006. The news was a reminder of the royal family's links to Hitler's Nazi Party, which they've tried so hard to cover up. Prince Philip is William and Harry's grandfather and the Queen's husband. He married the Queen in 1947 and changed his German name from Philip Battenberg to Philip Mountbatten to cover up his German identity.
The so-called royal family which triumphed is basically German. They are seated on almost every throne in Europe. They are the Saxe-Coburg-Gotha-Battenberg bloodline, which...
All right, check this out. This is where the House of Windsor reigns. Here's the House of Windsor, okay? You obviously have Queen Elizabeth II, who's still reigning. She's about, I think she's 92 or 93 right now. She's pretty old, and she's still making trips around. These are where they reign, countries they reign, their realms. These are former realms, the darker green, and the lighter green are current realms that they reign in. Notice Australia and Canada. What have we noticed as having issues of recent in Australia and Canada is this insanity of politics, political correctness, with everyone calling everyone a Nazi. Because, and this is the irony, okay? This is the irony. So these realms are the ones that have all this immigration problems. You ever notice that? And they have these rapidly changing policies and control mechanisms over the people. And if you don't go along with it, you're a Nazi, which is ironic because of who reigns over these countries have actual bloodline ties to that. Isn't that insane? I mean, just what is the irony? I mean, you have to ask yourself if these people don't have a very sick sense of humor, very sick and twisted sense of humor, to basically call people what they are and make themselves look innocent and make themselves look as if a chameleon, like no one knows what they really are. You see what I mean? I just find that to be very, very humorous. Okay, let's check out a little bit more of this here. If I can get back to it, if I can ever find it. All right, here we go.
Often intermarries with the Hesse-Kassel German nobility and claim Jewish descent from the royal house of David in ancient Israel. They raise their children without love or compassion, breeding each successive generation to be at the head of a military establishment who keep an angered peace by use of fear, surveillance, and war.
It's interesting they mentioned war because a lot of these realms were established after the war, okay? After the Balfour Declaration of 1926. It's very interesting. Following the end of the First World War, however, shifts took place that saw the emergence of dominions, British Commonwealth as independent sovereign states. The shift was recognized by the Balfour Declaration of 1926. See? You see a lot of establishment here. Okay? You can see it down here even. United Kingdom, you have New Zealand, and you have Canada and Australia. They're all commonwealths. They're all underneath their reign. Okay?
Contrary to what the royal spin doctors have written in the school history books, Queen Victoria was not popular. She was often hissed in public, and there were no less than 7 attempts to kill her. Keeping the populace ignorant, using adults and children alike as virtual slaves in workhouses, providing no adequate protection against hypothermia, working every man and woman to exhaustion, and imposing a crippling poll tax was the modus operandi of Queen Victoria and all her relatives sitting on the thrones across Europe. so-called Victorian values allowed children to be used as slave labor. Inhumane slums and widespread poverty was common across the whole of Europe.
Like her husband, Prince Philip, Queen Elizabeth came from a royal family of name changers, and for precisely the same reason, to cover up their German identity. Before 1917, the British royals bore the German name of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, which was changed to the more British-sounding name of Windsor. The Queen and Philip are both the great-great-grandchildren of Queen Victoria, who married her German first cousin. That makes Elizabeth and Philip inbred kissing cousins. According to genetic researchers, marrying your relatives is not a very good idea, and here's why.
Now it looks like they're having a little bit of fun there with the whole genetic marrying cousins thing. But I just wanted to do sort of a peel back the curtains type of video here and just cover some about the House of Windsor. Looking at Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's wedding, it's a very interesting topic considering the fact Meghan Markle's mother is black and they're not royalty. So I find it very interesting with Prince William and Prince Harry, who they chose to marry. I'm kind of wondering if this is a PR campaign for the kingdom itself, knowing that they need to keep people ignorant, make it look like some sort of popularity contest, you know, oh, look, it's the prince. And of course, the mainstream media is completely in on this. They're 100% all in. And you got to ask yourself, why is that the case? Obviously, bought and paid for. It's not rocket science, right? So, I just wanted to kind of peel back and show you guys sort of the real history of the House of Windsor and just cover a little bit about that. And, you know, considering Prince Harry's history, you would have to ask yourself if this is a PR campaign. In the end, really it is. It's very strange. Or perhaps Prince Harry himself has just changed as a person. And, you know, maybe he's trying to make amends for his past history. I don't know. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And thanks for watching.